Welcome everybody to Creative Point of View. We're back again with the three most important people beside me. I'm going to introduce you now to all the great guests. The amazing, the wonderful, our coach, we call her coach, the amazing LDV! And I'm also going to introduce you to the girl there, Sugar. The guy that has made it so apparent for all of us. The co-founder, the first pencil, Mr. Nate Dizzle!
Nate.
And I'm now going to introduce you to the guy that's got probably the same afro as me. They call him the Duke of all pencils, Mr. Duke, the second pencil, co-founder. Woo! And you know what? I didn't even introduce myself the last time, so I'm going to take this time to introduce myself. They call me Mike Sofo. I am Mr. Sofo. That's who I am. Welcome to the Creative Point of View.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Nate, would you like to take us through with the next question, please?
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today. So we went through a pretty hard year, 2020 and last year, and we've reflected on that in our last videos. But what I want to ask you guys today is, what's your biggest challenge going into 2021? Like, what's the biggest obstacle going into this year? And what have you learned from last year? Whoever wants to take answer.
So I'll go in. So what I've learned from last year into this year is that whatever I'm doing to obviously persevere and not give up and obviously maintain focus. So in life, you're going to have trial and error. And I think in lockdown 1, there was a lot of uncertainty. People didn't know what they were doing or how they were going to do things, but you kind of figured it out, or you slowly got there. Lockdown 2 came along and people were kind of still waiting. And I think by then people were then starting to decide what it is they were going to do. And now we're in lockdown 3 and about to come out of it. People have now, I believe, got a plan. So what that's kind of taught me is just to kind of just do what I need to do the trial and error whilst it's the quietest time, so that when things do open up, I can hit the ground running. I think it's so important. And for all the things that I haven't wanted, I've been able to do, I've now just gone out and done them. So now I go for runs. Now I lift weights. I do all those things that I weren't able to do because there was no time. Yeah, got to do it, man. Get some of this COVID weight off, you know? I got gums to fit into. So it has to happen. But yeah, man, that's probably been one of the things that has been different between last year and now. And also just to kind of like enjoy life, regardless of like what is being thrown at you, because no one knows what the outcome is going to be. And I think there was a lot of worry at the beginning. And it was quite stressful, but I think now it's one of those things that you have to kind of just embrace it and kind of just learn from the experience, so that once things do open up again, you won't look back and be like, oh, I wish I had time to relax, or I wish I had time to do this, or I wish I had time to do that, because I think now is the time to just do it. No one's going to judge you for it. And I think we're all on similar paths. And if you're unsure, just kind of learn from one another, ask questions, ask for help, seek guidance. It's all about being a better version of yourself from 2020 and being a better you in 2021. So that's it.
Cool. I like that. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Yeah, there's a lot in that. Who wants to take the next one?
I'll take the next one. It's probably similar to Duke, but what I would say is one thing I learned from last year coming into this year is adaptability. To be able to adapt to all situations. Now, last year, nobody was expecting the coronavirus, the pandemic, the lockdown to come or anything. We were prepared that, the year we were looking forward to summer maybe, we had all our plans. I was looking forward to a wedding, you know, and we planned everything. We thought we were going to have this amount of people, we're going to go to this venue. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and then it looked like there were going to be no weddings. But me and my wife, we had to believe, but we had to adapt to the situation that was going on. So we couldn't have the big, massive wedding that we wanted to. I won't say big, massive. Let me just point that out. It wasn't going to be big and massive, but the obviously the amount of people that we wanted, it wasn't going to be that, and we still had to believe that no matter what the situation, we'll adapt to it, and it will still be a great wedding. So I learned from that, and not only that, to even believe that it will still happen, because so many people were not having their weddings. They had to cancel and everything. Even though ours was in October, we were thinking by October, it's probably going to die out. This thing, the wind is going to blow the whole coronavirus away and we're going to be all good. But it wasn't coming down to that. And then we had to deal with the venues not giving our money back and all that type of stuff. But we still had to think. So one thing I looked after having such an amazing wedding, even though it was only 15 people there, after having an amazing wedding and the way the year ended for us, because it ended on in an amazing way. Like, I've learned that, look, regardless of what the situation is, you can still fulfill whatever dream or idea that you have. You just have to adapt to the situation at that time. That's the one thing I've learned. Like, I'm never going to have an idea and then something happens and think, oh, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just kind of, let's see what happens first. Let's see what happens first. Like, it's last year would have been crazy for some people, but I can say that for me and my wife, it was a tough year, but we adapted to it and we ended on a high. That's what I would say to that one.
I think that's beautiful when you think about what you said. I think the key word when you said adaptability, that hit home, I think, to all of us. I think that's probably the biggest skill you've probably had in the past 2 years, especially just adjusting to all the climate, the situations, the environment, and considering everything that's going on in the world. It was probably the biggest skill. Like, probably people that came out on top were the ones who adapted quicker. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that. So yeah. Lauren.
Love this question. I think because obviously you're saying about the biggest obstacle this year, I think, and it's something I continually, like, always working on, and you'll all know this, is like the biggest obstacle will be me. I don't think there's anything outside of that. I think I have to take charge and take ownership and accountability of what I do, how I choose to react to things, adaptability. And I think all of that is like the root of self-awareness. So having self-awareness in terms of, okay, when these things happen, I know this is how I naturally react. So being able to understand that, recognize it, accept it, and then adapt to it, I think is really, really key. And I just keep going back to ownership, everything that comes your way. One of the big things I've been working with a lot of small businesses on is like this hybrid model, because some businesses have had to close, like they cannot operate any other different way. So they're always impacted by the decision of somebody else. And then just kind of waiting for them to either give them permission to continue with what they were doing. So we talked a lot about the hybrid model of actually, what else can you do so that no matter what externally is happening, you can still flow, you can still do what you're doing, because your vision doesn't change. It just might mean that the journey there takes a detour or takes a slightly different journey. But I think self-awareness of that is key, and then just keep going.
I think one thing that you said that I love, Lauren, was that you said that the journey doesn't change, and that is so true. I remember a guy called Miles Monroe said that if you have a vision, it will be tested. Your vision will be tested. It just depends on how much you believe that it's supposed to come to pass. Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, I want to do this," and then the first obstacle comes, and then they're kind of like, "You know what? I can't be bothered. It's too much. It's too much." But the real test is you getting through it and being able to get to that destination instead of just stopping whenever there's a hurdle or letting something to stop you. So, like, you hit on the head with that one. I really agree.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's definitely about understanding your mental. I think you can think about many things, but really understanding what it is you want to do and what's in front of you and what the goal is as well. That's really key. So definitely a touch point, Lauren.
Okay, you guys are, yeah, like I didn't know what to expect when I asked this question, and I think you all brought something to the table, and I can relate to everything that you lost that said. I think probably the biggest one for me is the self-awareness and the adaptability, and then the breakdown of Duke of how it went through pandemic last year. I think the biggest obstacle for me was probably going to be myself and living outside my comfort zone, and also sustaining like consistency. As a high yellow, I like to be social and being by myself. I've got introvert in me, but if you don't mix with people or don't see them, it's hard to sustain who you are. Like it's like you feed off other people's energy. So that's probably been the biggest challenge. And I hit a huge brick wall in December, and January was tough for me, and I've only just come out of it. And it's been great to be like on video calls like this. So my biggest obstacle will probably be just to be consistent enough and live outside my comfort zone. And to motivate yourself, I think motivation within this pandemic it's been tough. Like first lockdown was probably the easiest for me. Second one was okay. Third one, I've never mentally been in that space before in my life. So that itself, taking myself out of that and coming through and not slipping back into that is probably my biggest obstacle this year. And being able to be consistent on how I should perform and for the business, and keeping everyone else motivated within the team of Two Pencils and a Pad, and anyone else within my family too, and just being like positive in terms of what's happening has probably been the biggest obstacle. So going into this year, overall, I'll say just being consistent, self-aware, and adjusting to, because the news changes all the time on that, what we can and can't do. And that just being adaptable, I think, is probably the biggest thing out of that for me personally.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much for joining in. Again, if you want to see more of this, please subscribe, press the like button, and then we'll bring you more content. But thank you so much for joining us, from each and every single one of us, from LDV, from Nate Dizzle, and the Duke of all pencils. This is the greatest point of view.
Oh, that's jokes. That's great.
Peace.
Oh, man.